Apple has just released macOS Sequoia, and it contains more than 75 new features and changes, including 2 of my favorite Mac features in years. So in this video, like always, we're going to cover everything new in the software. So let's jump in. So first off, like usual, we do have new wallpapers. So this is the default macOS Sequoia wallpaper. This does also come in a dark mode, and you can see if we lock our screen, what that little animation looks like. And then when you unlock to go to the desktop, we have that subtle stop to the animation. We have this retro Macintosh wallpaper, which is really cool and animated. It does have a light and a dark mode, and you can change between all of these different colors. This one looks really cool when you lock your device as well. So it looks like that. You can see the little mouse cursor there. And if we go ahead and unlock, it does come to that subtle stop. And then the last one is Sequoia Sunrise. And this one looks really nice. So especially when you lock your screen, the lock screen looks amazing here. So it looks like a movie. And then if you unlock, again, we do have that subtle stop. Very nice wallpapers this year. Okay, so let's talk about this guy right here because you already saw it. What is this? This is iPhone mirroring. This is my favorite macOS feature in multiple years. So this allows you to view and pretty much control your iPhone straight from your Mac without ever having to physically pick up the phone. Okay, so why is this actually useful? So we're gonna press Command 3 here to go to Spotlight Search. So there are different keyboard shortcuts as well. Like you can go into, let's just go to Command 3 and I'm gonna search for the Journal application. And from here, I can press Command 1 to go back to the home screen. And then I can press Command 2 to go into the app switcher and see all of my currently open applications. And the reason this is so awesome is because you can access applications that you could not normally access on your Mac. Like for example, the Journal application. I can not only access the journal, but I can also, write with my keyboard now. I don't actually need to type on my phone for that. And you can see I made this whole journal entry from my Mac. You could also open up things like Snapchat. So if I want to open up Snapchat, which does not have a Mac client, you can now do that on your Mac. You can also change the size of the window for iPhone mirroring. So you can use keyboard shortcuts for this as well. So if you do Command plus, that will increase the size. Command minus will decrease the size of this window. And to get back to normal size, it's Command 0. Now, unfortunately, we do not have drag and drop just yet. So eventually you will be able to drag and drop files from your iPhone to your Mac and vice versa. So this can be great for transferring files from your photo library or transferring files into or out of the Files application. Now, if you unlock your phone and use it, it will disconnect. So you can see it shows iPhone in use and it tells you that you need to lock your phone to restart iPhone mirroring. So if you lock your phone again, you will have to press connect. It does not automatically reconnect. You will have to press that again. And then you get this little animation here with the iPhone 15 Pro Max filling up. So really cool animation. I love this feature and I cannot wait for drag and drop to come later. And by the way, if you want to change the phone that's being used, you can do that under desktop and dock. So if we go down here, you can see that under widgets, we have this new section called iPhone. And this is where you can change to different phones. If you have multiple devices, you can change that right there. Now, in addition to iPhone mirroring, we also now have iPhone notifications that show up on your Mac. And this might seem like a small deal, but it makes a big difference. So especially for notifications, like when your Apple Watch finishes charging or when you get a Snapchat notification, something where you don't have like a native Mac, notification system or a Mac application, it really comes in handy. So another great feature that helps you not have to pick up your phone so much while working, just like iPhone mirroring does. So if you go into your settings and go down to notifications, you will see that we have allow notifications from iPhone. And if you go into this section, you will be able to choose which applications you want to be enabled to send notifications to your Mac. And these will come through as like typical looking notifications up here in your notification center. As you can see, this one from Fourth Wall, it does show the little iPhone glyph right there. There's also a new AirDrop UI, so you can see that bar down there and this whole UI is different. And also it now shows after AirDrop complete that we can show in Finder right there. So it's easy to press on that. Before it was kind of hidden away if it showed up at all. Sometimes it didn't even show up. So new view there. And there's also a slight UI change to the AirDrop menu when sending files from your Mac. There's a new Siri UI. So if you press on Command twice, that will pull up Type to Siri. So from here, you can enter in your quick query, or you can dictate as well. So if I start talking right here, you can see it will dictate that, and then I can press on return and it will submit that query. Now this is not the Siri 2.0 just yet. That is coming at a later date, but this is what you see on macOS 15.1 and later. And it is also smarter, so it does understand context a little bit better, and you could also ask for specific details about your device. Like for example, if I ask how to change wallpapers, it will now show me exact details instead of searching the web for it, and that's because the macOS user guide is now built in to Siri, so you can ask specific questions about your OS or your device. And one thing that you might want to change is inside of your settings. If you go to Apple Intelligence and Siri, right here we have the keyboard shortcut for Siri. So by default, it is set to press either command key twice, but you can set it to any of these right here, or you can set a custom keyboard shortcut to launch Siri. Now also up here in the notification center, you'll notice that we have a change to the UI here. So it now says clear banners. We also have a settings option right here, and then also edit widgets. Now here's another major feature that I've been waiting on for over a decade. We now have easy window tiling in macOS. So how this works is if you have windows open, you could just simply take your window and drag it to one of the corners right here, and you will see an outline. Now, if you do not, you could also hold the option key and it will always keep those outlines visible. It will show you those guides so you know where you can actually put that application. So we'll put this one right here and you can see it pops it up like so. Now let's go ahead and move our notes. So we're gonna move that over here, and you have to put it all the way in the corner if you want it to be in the fourths grid. And now we're gonna take mail, we're gonna put that all the way down here, and then we're gonna make calendar smaller now. So when you press and hold, it will make it smaller by default, but now we're gonna go all the way up in the corner here. So it's a little tricky because I have two monitors. So there we go. And now we have Safari, which once again, we'll just put it down here in the bottom right, and you'll see that the little outline shows up telling us we can put it right there. And if it's being stubborn for some reason, you can just hover over the green button right here and you can change this. So you can put it in the fourths grid right here and it will adjust it for you and put it in its correct spot. So now we don't need, rectangle or some of these third-party applications anymore to have basic window tiling. And if we hover over the green button right here, we do have the fill and arrange section, which I just showed you. You can change these on the fly. So if I want to move this over to the left side and take up half the screen, I can just press that and there we go. It kind of swaps out with these other two windows that were over there. And you can get even more options if you go up to window and then go to move and resize. And from here you have your halves, your quarters, and you could also arrange like we just did there. So if you look between these windows, you'll see that we have a little bit of padding. We have a little bit of margin between these. Now, if you're not a fan of that, if you want the windows to actually stick to each other, you need to enable a setting that's disabled by default. So go into your settings, go to desktop and dock, and then if you scroll down under windows, we have a new option in macOS Sequoia that's called tiled windows have margins. And if you disable that, you can see the difference between having margins and not having margins. And then if you go to the top of the desktop and dock settings, we also have this new menu option called double click a Windows title bar, and you can set this to zoom now. So that means if you double click the title bar right here, the top of a window, it will now maximize that window, but it will not fill it. It will not put it in full screen and it will not minimize it anymore. There's also a new video conferencing feature. So if you were on a Zoom call or a Google Meet and you go to share your screen, so we're going to go to present now and we're going to share our screen, you'll see that we now have this new preview here. So this is a new feature called presenter overlay preview. And from here, you can make sure what you're actually sharing before you share it. So it has this purple highlight right here. And you can also go up here and change what windows you want to show. So if you want to only show, this window, for example, you can now get an easy view of all your windows and you have this purple overlay, and you could also set your presenter overlay here. So this is not new, but this is new in the preview now. So you can see what you look like before you actually share your screen. And it makes it very clear as well to share this window. Like you have to click on this button as well, basically just to prevent any type of accidental sharing of potentially personal information. And this gets even better as well, because if you go up here and you switch over over to Safari, for example, which is where we have our video playing right now, we have a new section called background. And if you press on that, you can now have a green screen where it kind of blocks out everything in the background, which can be excellent for video calls. And if you press on the image right here, you have different backgrounds to choose from. So different colors, different gradients. You also have different like actual objects, like if you're in Apple Park, or you can choose your own image as a background. And speaking of video, we also have a new feature called Video Viewer in Safari. So if you're watching a video in Safari and you tap on the reader view up here, there's a new option called Video Viewer. So this works for YouTube videos, if you have a native video on a website, anything, as long as the video is playing and it's not muted. So if you go to Video Viewer, you can see it kind of brings the video to the front and it kind of blurs everything out in the background. So this is awesome, and it also gives you kind of a native video player here as well, so you don't have to deal with YouTube's player. You can even AirPlay from this menu, you can make it smaller, and you also have other options such as the playback speed and also picture-in-picture. So you can put this YouTube video in picture-in-picture mode and then go on to another website like the Apple Den, which is my newsletter if you're not signed up already. And you could also move this window around to any of the four corners here on your display. And by the way, if you have an application that can record your screen or share your screen, you will now get this new pop-up in macOS Sequoia on a monthly basis. So it says that this application is requesting to bypass the system private window picker and directly access your screen and audio, and you just have to allow for 1 month. And again, this will be a repeat process. Also in Safari, we have a really awesome feature called highlights, and this is going to give you summaries for like too long didn't reads on websites. So for example, if you don't want to read a full article, you can go up here and press on the reader icon and go to show reader, and inside of this new redesigned reader view, which you can see it's not perfect yet with these images, but we have a summarize option now. And if you press on that, it will scan the article and give you a summary. And if it's a long summary, it will even have a table of contents. But it's much more than that, because you can also see information about people as well. So for example, I'm on Johnny Depp here on Rotten Tomatoes. You can see we have this little sparkle up in the address bar, which means that we have something for highlights. So if you click on that, you can see it will show information about the person on the page and also a link to go to this person's Wikipedia page. Or if you're on a hotel website and you want to see what their address is, instead of scrolling all the way down to the bottom, you can just press on this option right here. You can just press on the reader, and thanks to highlights, we now have the address right here, and we can even just press go and it will put in the directions into our map application instantly. And it will also show you the phone number of places as well if it's not visible above the fold. Like this one has the phone number right here, so it didn't show that, but for some websites it will also show the phone number up here as well. And going back to the reader view, we also just have a nice redesign here in macOS Sequoia. So you can see the big theme options up here. We have our font, we have our zoom right here, and you could also find on page from here very easily as well. Okay, so here's one of my favorite Safari features in macOS Sequoia, and this is also in iOS 18, but it works so much better on macOS Sequoia. So if you go up to the reader bar up here, the reader menu, and click on that, we have an option in here called hide distracting items. If you click on that, you see this big full page takeover ad. I cannot stand these. I never want to see it again on this website, so all I need to do is just simply click on it, and boom, it Thanos snaps away and it's gone for good, at least until something changes. And what I mean by changes is that this only works to hide elements that do not change. So if an item, an element changes dynamically, like every time you refresh the page, that will not be hidden using this feature, which is why this is not an ad blocker by any means. It's mainly just meant to hide annoying elements on a web page, which is why it's called distraction control. Here's another example, this little agreeing to cookies and everything like that. We want to get rid of that. We'll click on that as well. This little hand down here, gone. This little help bar down here, that's also gone. And now if we click on done and refresh the page, you'll see that we do not see any of those distracting or annoying elements on the web page anymore. And you'll see this little blue eye up in the address bar when you have items that are hidden, and you could also revert those changes by showing those hidden items. But again, if we try to hide like this ad, for example, you can see this big ad right here. If we try to hide that, and same with this and the background right here. I don't even think you can hide that one, but that's how crazy the ads are getting these days. But this one right here, if we want to hide that, for example, we can hide these ads for the time being, like during this little session right here before I reload. But if I click on done and then I go to another part of the website where I reload the page, you can see that they will repopulate. So we'll go right back into here, or we'll go to this section and into another article, and those ads will just reappear. Also in Safari, Apple is now blocking websites from attempting to send malicious requests to the IP address of 0.0.0.0. So this is in response to a 0-day vulnerability that was discovered that allowed a malicious actor to access private data on your internal private network. There's also some changes to the start page. So now Siri suggestions is now just suggestions. So they took out the Siri right here. The privacy report now shows a bigger glyph icon with color, and it also shows the last 30 days, not just the last 7 days without clicking. So before it would only show you the last 7 days and you had to click into there to see the last 30. Now it shows last 30 by default. And then down here in the bottom right, we have an edit button, whereas before that was just a glyph icon for edit. And then there's also titles for this edit menu. So we have drag to reorder and show and suggestions. Before it just showed everything all jumbled up. Now it's a little bit more structured. So last year we got web application support. So you can now add websites to the dock, which essentially treats the website as an application because it always shows up in the dock down here. And when you click on it to open it opens up in its own menu. And it also shows the name of the site or whatever you chose up here in the main menu. But now with macOS Sequoia, there's now support for web extensions and content blockers inside of web applications. So if you have an ad blocker, that will now work in web apps. And you can see this by going to the web app and then going to settings. And from here, we have an extensions menu where you can change and enable or disable your extensions. And there's also support for opening links directly in web applications. Safari also now supports using passkeys across related origins. So this allows websites to use the same passkey across a limited number of domains which share a credential back end. So this means in theory that you should not have to continue putting in your passkey if maybe you go to a different part of a domain. And WebKit for Safari 18 also now supports HTTPS for all images, video, and audio by automatically upgrading mixed content, which is HTTP media, to HTTPS. And this update also adds support for Safari extension on managed devices. Okay, so a big part of macOS Sequoia is going to be Apple Intelligence. So this is coming in macOS 15.1 to all M series Macs. So even if you have an M1 MacBook Air, you will get Apple Intelligence. And there are a lot of cool features and a lot more to come. So we already talked about the new Siri, which for me, I just double click on the command key and we get that new UI up there in the top right, and we can type to Siri, but there's more than that. So one of my favorite Apple Intelligence features is a very simple one, but a very practical one, and that is the ability to summarize your notifications and also mail and messages. So for example, in my mail inbox here, we can see that I get a quick summary of all of these emails. So sometimes newsletters and certain, emails will not really tell you much from the preview text, but this feature will basically cut past all that and summarize what's inside of the email. It will also prioritize messages, so if it deems something as being very important, it will pin it up to the top and make sure that you cannot miss it. We also have something called Smart Reply. So if I go into this email right here and I go to reply to this email, take a look at what happens here. So in the email, it says, did you want the red iPhone 16 case or the carbon fiber case? And is it okay if I ship it out now? So if you start typing something out, Apple Intelligence will recognize the context of the email and it will start writing out a smart reply for you. So for example, if I want the red case and yes, I want it shipped out now, I could just click here. If I want the carbon fiber case and no, I don't want it shipped out, I can click here. So we'll just do red case yes, and let's see what it comes up with for a smart reply. So it says, hi there, please send the red iPhone 16 case. Yes, it's okay to ship it out now. That's awesome. So let's say that you decide you don't like how that was written. So if you select the text, you'll see that we have a new Apple Intelligence little logo that pops up here. If you don't see that, you can also right click and then go down here to writing tools and you can choose what you want to do. I'll just do show writing tools, which is what that little button there does. So let's just say we want to make this let's say we want to make it more friendly. So we're going to click on friendly, and it will automatically take into account what was said. And now it says, could you please send the red iPhone 16 case? It's totally fine to ship it out right away. And if you don't like that, you could have it retry. So you could have it retry to maybe make it a little bit more friendly. You can revert, or you can go back. We also have summary, key points, list, and table. So those are different ways that we can write this out. So for example, if I just wanted to make this a list for some reason, not really something you make into a list, but you can see it will put it into bullet points right there, which is neat, and it's great for summarizing something as well. But we also have something interesting here called proofread, and I'm going to go over to my notes for this one. So we're going to select these first couple of sentences here where I do have some errors, and we're going to right click and then go into our writing tools, and we're going to go to proofread and take a look at how this works. So it said that we needed 3 changes, and it has those changes underlined with that little Apple Intelligence underline right there, and you can go through each one of them and it will tell you why that had to be changed. So it says this one was a noun, and then this one, it was for punctuation, and then this third one was for spelling. And of course, again, you can revert back if you would like to, but it will change it by default if you click on done. And then you do also have the rewrite button up here as well, which if you do that, it will just rewrite the text. It's not necessarily going to be in a different way, like friendly, concise, or anything like that. This is really the best way to summarize. So if you want something summarized, the best way to do it is to go here and go to writing tools and then just go to rewrite, and it will almost always make it a little bit shorter than the original, result there. It will make it a little bit more easy to read. But that's not all, because we also have this little record audio option in the toolbar of notes. And if you click on that, you now have the ability to not only record a voice note here, but you can have it transcribe in real time. So if we go ahead and click on record, it will start recording. And if I press transcribe right here, the little annotation icon, it will start, giving me what I'm saying. It will start typing out exactly what I'm saying into the microphone here. And if we pause on this, you can pause and resume. You can go around doing other things. You can type here while this is paused, or even while it's recording. You can do both at the same time if you would like. But we also have a summary option up here. So I'm going to stop this, and you can see we have summary. So it will summarize what was said during that voice note. So that is pretty awesome. And if you go out of there, you can see that this is the little rich card that you get after recording a voice note, and it shows the transcript right here. And then the other Apple Intelligence feature I wanted to talk about was the reduce interruptions focus mode. And this has become my favorite focus mode over the past month or so. So if you go into focus, you'll notice a brand new focus mode called reduce interruptions. And this does exactly what it sounds like. So basically, Siri and Apple Intelligence will now understand the content inside of your notifications, and that will determine whether or not they kind of push through this focus mode. So if something seems urgent, or if something seems like it needs an answer right away, it will push that through the focus mode, and you will see a little notification for it. Otherwise, all the other notifications will be muted. And of course, you can change this as well. So if you go into your settings and go down to focus, you can change which applications show and which do not. So in here, we have intelligent breakthrough and silencing. So that is the default, whole functionality of reduce interruptions, but it will tell you exactly what it does there. But you could also set a schedule, you can set focus filters, and you can allow certain people and certain applications as well, just like any other focus mode. So before macOS Sequoia, if you wanted to access all of your saved passwords, you had to go into your settings and then go into the saved passwords section, the keychain. But now in macOS Sequoia, we have a standalone application called Passwords, which is where all of your passwords and passkeys live. So this seems like a minor deal, but it's actually a really big deal. So this will show you all of your passwords and your passkeys at a glance. You could also see your Wi-Fi passwords at a glance. You can even go into here and set this as a QR code. So if you show, it will show the QR code to join the network. You have two-factor authentication codes here as well. So this is essentially where everything lives now. And you also have your shared groups down here as well, which you can also add passkeys to shared groups now. So having passwords as a standalone application is fine, it's great. But if you want to make this a lot more convenient, if you go up to the passwords settings and then go to show passwords in menu bar, this will add this little key up to your menu bar, and this will make things a lot easier. Let me show you. So if I go to brandonbutch.com, for example, and I want to log in, if I go up to my menu bar up here, it will automatically detect that I'm on a website where I have a saved username and password, and it will suggest it right there. And from here, I can right click to copy the username and password, or I could just click on it regular and I can see what the password is if I hover over that. And it also shows the last modified date and everything. You could also click this right here to open up the full menu for the application. And this does also work on third-party browsers as well, like Arc, Chrome, and Firefox, as long as you have the iCloud extension installed, which you will be prompted the first time you open up Passwords to install it. So now let's talk about the settings application, because there are a lot of changes here that you might not notice at first. So if you go into System Settings, the first thing that's new is that it now opens to the General tab, whereas before it opened to Appearance first. And if you go up to the top, it now says Apple account, whereas before it said Apple ID. And if you go into your Apple account, we have multiple changes in here as well. So this second tray right here, the second section of menu items has been changed slightly. So it now says family, whereas before that said family sharing. And it's also now above media and purchases. Before it was below it. And there's also a new sign in with Apple section. So if you go into here, it will show you all of the websites or services that you used the sign in with Apple service, which is very convenient. And you could also, again, share these accounts in the Passwords application in a group with family members. And then if we go into the iCloud section, this has also been completely redesigned, just like it has been on iOS and iPadOS. So you have your storage here, your saved iCloud, your iCloud Plus features. It's just a lot easier to read, a lot easier to understand. And if you go to Save to iCloud, you can just see everything easily at a glance. And by the way, that says See All now, whereas before it said Show More Apps. And if we go down to our Wi-Fi settings and go into the details of our currently connected network, we have a change in here as well. And that's right here next to private Wi-Fi address. So we now have a menu to choose either off, fixed, or rotating. And it tells you what it does right here. So it says a rotating private address reduces tracking on this network and across other networks. So it basically does the same thing as private Wi-Fi address when it was just turned on before, but it just has a slightly new name and a better description of what it does. And then under the Bluetooth settings, we now have a description of what Bluetooth is and what it does. And you'll notice that is a theme throughout macOS Sequoia. So we have a lot of descriptions. So for like accessibility, for example, it shows a description of accessibility there. Even for different things like the Control Center, it will show us right there a description of Control Center. And you'll just see that throughout. Again, it's very similar to what we see on iOS and iPadOS 18. Same with notifications there. Heading into the general settings, you can see we have the big general glyph right here and a description beneath that, which is new. And then we also have a change to the order of these options. And right below general, we have the accessibility settings pane, and that has also been moved. So before appearance was second and then accessibility was third. Now accessibility is second. And same with desktop and dock. That used to be on the third section. Now it's up here in the second. And same with screensaver. That used to be further down. Now it's been moved up. Now heading into the privacy and security tab, we have a couple of changes here. So first off, we have the description up top and the glyph. That is new. Also for next to location services, it now shows the amount of applications that have access to our location. Before it didn't show anything until you actually went in there. And same goes with all the applications. It now shows how many applications are utilizing something related to your privacy and security right beneath it. And even down here for all of these, we have all the numbers that gives us a preview as to what to expect inside of that menu without having to click inside. And down at the bottom of this section, we have security, and next to allow applications from, this is now a drop-down menu instead of radio buttons, and also says App Store and known developers now, whereas before it said App Store and identified developers. Oh, and it also says allow applications from instead of allow applications downloaded from. We do also have some new accessibility features with macOS Sequoia. So the first one is going to be hover typing. So if you go into the hover text section, there's a new option here for hover typing. And if you enable that, if you go to type something, you will see that it pops up real big. So I'm going to go to Siri, for example, and you can see it takes up the entire screen when I'm typing. So this can be great if you do not have good vision and you want to see what you're typing in, since that can be pretty small sometimes. And then right here, audio descriptions has been renamed. So it used to just say descriptions. And then down here under speech, we also have vocal shortcuts. So this allows you to teach your Mac to recognize a custom phrase that you can say quickly to perform an action. So this is just like what we have on iOS 18, where you can set up a custom phrase to perform certain actions, including Siri request, so something you would normally ask Siri to do. You can now just say one trigger word and it will perform that entire request. You could also have it access shortcuts, and also all the way down here we have accessibility options that you can trigger with a simple one-word phrase. And then all the way near the bottom we have general. If you go into Siri, there's a new option for listen for atypical speech. So it says expands the speech patterns Siri will listen for to help improve speech recognition. Now here's something new I wasn't expecting in macOS Sequoia. We have new graphics for the chess application. So if you play chess, you will notice a much more modern, much better layout for chess now. And speaking of games, macOS Sequoia also adds Game Porting Toolkit 2.0. So this is a toolkit that makes it easier for devs to port their games over to Mac, iPhone, and iPad. And the best part about it is that it now supports ray tracing and the AVX2 instruction set. And there's also some new native Mac games that support ray tracing as well. So some of those are out now and some are coming soon. This includes Palworld, Assassin's Creed Shadows, and more. And if you have AirPods, there's also personalized spatial audio for gaming. And if you have your AirPods connected to your Mac, you can go down to adaptive audio. And from here, you can now adjust the adaptive audio to have less noise or more noise. It's not just an on or off toggle anymore. And there's also head gestures now. So just like on iOS and iPadOS, we now have head gestures with the AirPods. So you can shake your head up and down, like saying yes, if you want to accept or reply to a notification. And you can shake your head side to side like a no if you want to decline or dismiss a notification or a phone call or FaceTime. And there's also now voice isolation for the AirPods Pro 2 on calls, which will block out the noise in the background. So that used to just be on the iPhone, but now it's on the AirPods Pro 2 as well. And then we also have the big calculator change on macOS Sequoia, just like in iOS and iPadOS 18. So we have a typical calculator here, but you'll notice that we can now see the full expression as we type out the problem. You could also click on that to revert back and change something in the problem. We have a backspace button now. We also have different options like scientific calculator, and you also have a programmer calculator, which is pretty neat. And you could also use keyboard shortcuts to go back and forth between these different modes. So they're very simple, command 1, 2, and 3 to switch between them. We do also have the conversion calculator and also the math notes, which I talked about both of these ad nauseum in my iOS and iPadOS 18 videos. However, I will show you a quick example of math notes here in a note. So if I write out a math problem, for example, and then I just put an equal sign, it will automatically begin to solve that. And if I press return, it will enter that with a nice little animation. But it's more advanced than just that. So if I have a list of my tax deductions right here, along with their corresponding price, if I want to add up certain things at the bottom, I could just type out what the variable is, because now with math notes, your system will understand variables. So if I just put in Final Cut plus internet plus mic minus desk, and if I put in equals, it will automatically highlight those selections under tax deductions and give me the result if I press on return. So that is pretty awesome. And you can even do conversions in here as well. So if you just started typing out 230 miles per hour, if you put an equal sign, it will automatically convert that to kilometers, as you can see right there. Or if I type in 1250 USD, if I hit equals, it will go ahead and change that. And this is BRL, but if I put to CAD, for example, if I put USD to CAD and then put equals, it will show me what that conversion is. The calendar application gets a nice update with macOS Sequoia, so we get all of the same iOS and iPadOS 18 changes, which means that we now have integration with reminders. So you can now create a reminder from the calendar application, so you get the full screen here, so you can have notes, you can tag it, all of that straight from calendar, and you can also complete your reminders from simply clicking on it right here inside of calendar. No need to go into reminders anymore for that. And you get all the other changes like in iOS and iPadOS 18 as well, including displaying subtasks in smart lists, and also the recently deleted section where you can see your recently deleted reminders and you can recover them from here as well. The Notes application has some nice changes. So if you click on these two A's in the toolbar, you can see a few changes up here. So first off, we have this highlight section. So if we choose a color, let's just say we'll just do blue for this example, it will highlight that text blue. And now if we go to this other one right here, if we want to highlight that, we can just press right here since the color is already selected, and then it highlights it. And then we also have collapsible headers. So if you tap on the two A's again, and then you go ahead and select heading for something, you will see a little arrow pops up right there, and it collapses everything underneath of it. And if we do the same for journey right here, so if we change this to a heading, you can see now we have two different collapsible headers, which makes for much better, notes, much more organized notes. The Messages app also gets all of the iOS 18 features, including send later. So if you go here, you can see we have the option to send later, and we can schedule a message. Also, if you highlight something, you do get options now if you right click for different formatting, including bold, italicize, underline, strike through. You could also add text effects to specific words, not the entire message. And of course, we do also have the new tap backs. If you right click on here, you can tap back with more colorful reactions, and also you can choose any emoji that you want to react to a message with. So if I want to react to this message with a fire emoji, I can do that now. And of course, we do have RCS, so you will be able to text your Android friends from your Mac now. In the Freeform application, we now have scenes, so you can set different scenes to zoom in and move around a board based on your criteria that you set right here. So if you add a scene, that will add it. Now, if I zoom out, and let's just say we go all the way out here, and I'll make this a scene. Now, if I go back and then go forward twice, you can see it zooms out because I set that as a scene. We also have snap to grid. So if you have the grids in the background, you'll see how they kind of snap to the grid. That was not there in macOS Sonoma. We also have topographic maps and trail networks now in the Maps application, which looks way better than it did before. And also if you go to a national park, you will see hiking directions, and you can see that you could also add a note. You can plan your route, and if you go down, it will show you all of the different hikes. So if we go here and go to more, it will show you all the hikes in that area. And if you move around on the map, it will show you hikes in that area as well. It will refresh for you. And if you go into these hikes, you can see all the details about them as well. You could also create your own custom route. Again, just like what we see on iOS 18. In the weather application, we now have home and work locations. So if you have two different locations, two different cities where you work and where you live, you can now have those signified up here in the toolbar. So it will show you both of those at the top. And then if you go into any of your forecasts right here, so we'll go to today's forecast. This is now conditions. So it combines a couple of things in here, and it shows you all the conditions for the day. So small change, but again, it is something we also see in iOS 18. In the music application, underneath of home, it used to say browse, now it says new. And also if you go to the home tab and go down to find your mood, this is an over-the-air update. This has nothing to do with macOS Sequoia, but I wanted to shout it out because these find your mood stations, these new stations have been killer. macOS Sequoia also supports HDMI Passthrough for Dolby Atmos content. So this allows your Mac to play Dolby Atmos audio to a connected AV receiver or a soundbar. And you can find this in your settings of music and also in TV or even in QuickTime Player. So if you go into your settings and go to playback, you can see down here we have a new option for HDMI pass-through. And this is off by default, so you will need to enable this if you do plan on using this HDMI pass-through. So you can see it here for the TV application, for example. You can see it's off here as well. So you do have to manually enable it for every application you plan on using this in. Now here's an under the radar change that could make a big difference for those who are always running low on storage. So app downloads now no longer require double the amount of local storage space to be available in order to install the application. So now with macOS Sequoia, you only need to have as much free space available as the final install size of the application plus a small buffer. In the home application, if you go up here to plus and you go to add people, we now have the option to add a guest, and we can set a schedule for that guest. So if I type in their name, we now have the ability to customize their access on a per day basis. So we can do it on either specific days or specific days and times. So we'll do specific days and times, and we'll go ahead and do all day, and we're going to add more. And from here, you'll be able to deselect all day and choose the specific times that you want this person to be able to get access to your door lock, your garage door, whatever the case may be. So for example, if I have, let's just say I have a cleaning lady come, this is definitely not me, by the way, so don't get the wrong idea, but if we have a cleaning lady come every Friday, we can have that set for every Friday, and we can have that set maybe just for a certain time. So let's just say we'll do 8 a.m. until 10 a.m. So there we go, from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Friday, we have that set. And now if we go to done, you need to select what you want them to have access to. So for example, the front door, I want them to be able to get into the house to clean the house. I can do that. And then I press invite and it will send them that invite and they can access my lock in this instance once a week on Friday from 8 to 10 a.m. And if you go into your home settings and go to home hubs and bridges, you can now select what you want your home hub to be. So it doesn't have to be automatic anymore if you do not want it to. And if you go into the energy tab, we also have the option to connect your energy account. And then coming later this year, you will be able to add robot vacuum cleaners to the home application, including in scenes, automations, and Siri requests. So that is macOS Sequoia. And once again, there are going to be several additional features and changes coming to macOS Sequoia over the coming months, with Apple Intelligence coming and other features that are expected. So if you don't want to miss out on what's coming up, make sure you hit that subscribe button below. And if you want to see everything new in iOS 18, you can check out that video right here, and same with watchOS, which is right down here as well. But anyways, guys, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.